see the companies asking questions really want to know about the practical side of things. You mentioned business culture, and it's one of those things you don't know until you come here. I mean, doing business around the world is doing business around the world, and it's just so different here. When it comes to interacting in business meetings and with Japanese companies and things like that, give us your top few tips.
Is that what, are you addressing that one to me?
That's for you, Steve, yeah.
Yeah, and sorry, Mark, can you just repeat again? My brain was reading some of the messages that are just coming in on the page, just very quickly, and I'll be happy.
Yeah, I was just saying a lot of those messages are geared towards the practical nuances of doing business in Japan. And you mentioned your first point in the nine there was about the business culture. So it's obviously very important, and it's hard for people to understand unless they come here and try to do business, just how important the nuances are. So when it comes to business culture and meetings and dealing with Japanese companies, what's your top three?
Yeah, I would say, I mean, certainly that point I made is the first one, the overriding one, about taking that time to kind of learn the culture, right? And if I had to sort of break that down into what would be the top three sort of sub points underneath that, I would certainly say getting in your head this situation that the customer is absolutely king. And what I find ever since I've been doing business in Japan, being prepared to give a lot of information, answer a lot of questions without much feedback coming back. That's one of the great difficulties. It's not so interactive. You don't get much feedback, but you do have to be prepared to give a lot up front. But don't ever misread that into thinking that the Japanese side is not interested. It is just their way of doing business and the way they absorb and take stuff in. So it can appear to be very one way up front for quite a long period of time. So that would be number one. Second one would definitely be kind of getting local help or help through one of the agencies that we're all sort of representing here, getting help to get to the right people, to get to the right decision makers. I've seen so many companies take so long trying to get through and get to the right person. And this whole thing about it taking a long time in Japan, that's where a lot of the time gets wasted. If you know, and if you can get a trusted supporter, whether it's an agent, a distributor, a partner you're working with, or one of the government agencies can introduce you. If you can get introduced to the right person at the right level, you can cut, all that stuff down. So I would say that would be number two. Number three would probably be localizing yourself in the right way. So what do I mean by that? I often advise companies to not get paranoid about throwing a ton of money into localizing everything and getting all your marketing collateral and everything done on day one, because you might waste that money if there's no opportunity. But there are ways that you can do some localization in a cost-effective way that can go an awful long way in terms of making a positive impact on the Japanese side. So that would probably be my top three. I don't know if anyone else on the panel's got anything to add to that or a different view on it.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, your point number one about not getting feedback. You got to be comfortable with awkward silences, don't you? Definitely. And looking at each other and not a lot of words happening. And if you're new to the market, a lot of business around the world is all about being chatty Betty and giving it the personality and everything else. You just got to sit there and be prepared to be comfortable with that silence. And it is uncomfortable, because if you do business elsewhere, things race through your head and you think they don't like me, or they're not interested, or what's going on here even, but you do. And number two, about having a trusted business partner. A lot of companies come across this and say these guys want to work. I've met the customer. They want to work through an importer or an agent or a distributor. It's like, why don't we just sell to them directly? It's just not the culture, is it? Right. But yeah, thanks for that, Steve. We'll move on. Nick, we've had a few questions for you, and it's quite similar. A few questions about the practical element of what you've done in setting up your business and how you've grown and everything else. This one sums it up quite well. Can Nick provide some insights on how FD first penetrated the Japanese market? How did they go about it? Who did they talk to?
That's a very good question. So we had some misfires. I think we were lucky in the sense that we were focused on getting into Japanese finance, and we already had a very good story around that. Having said that, we still had to do probably, the 20, 30 sometimes more meetings to even get to a level where we were talking to the right people. And you know, you can't underestimate the amount of time and effort that needs to be invested in doing this. I think it's changing a little bit, and it is becoming more internationalized. But this goes back also to, you know, the need to build a consensus and within a Japanese organization before they make a decision. It also reflects on things like, you know, the fact that a lot of people still work for the same company all their life, and a lot of the people at the top are generalists in the sense they get rotated around every 3 years, let's say. So there are a lot of good generalists, but not specialists who are willing to take risk. One good example of that would be, you know, I went to meet the new head of global markets at MUFG Bank in Japan, the biggest bank here, the sort of Goldman Sachs of Japan, and he'd been in the role for about a month. And he said, you know, Nick, Shindo-san, very nice to meet you. And he brought in literally 20, 30 people, which again is not unusual. And don't be put off by that. It's actually a good sign. But he said, there's very little I'm going to be able to contribute to this meeting because I've been running HR for the last 5 years. You know, that kind of thing can be quite surprising, off-putting. You know, my advice there is don't give up, don't be surprised. This process, there is a process there. And last thing I would say is, and I completely agree and would emphasize what Steve was saying around quality in everything that you do, the emails that you write, the phone calls that you make, the way that you behave, present yourself, your response time, sometimes working late, you know, all of that stuff, as well as the quality of your product. We're in software, so the quality assurance and improving that to the customer and going through giving all this information, as Steve said, about what we've been doing with other customers and what you wouldn't normally do with a Western company, because you think essentially stealing your secrets in a sense. Yeah, no, it can be baffling at times, but stick with it, and showing that quality and commitment will pay off, as I said, and you know the importance placed on the relationship and the quality. They will pay for quality, just like they pay for the Gucci bag. You know, I think someone mentioned luxury goods here being sold very well. It's that sort of mentality, but be prepared for that.
Thanks, Nick. Marie-Claire, we've got a few CEBA questions for you, if that's okay. We've all talked about how complex and challenging the Japanese market is, and given that, does CEPA offer anything in particular for SMEs, because they're the most, that's a category of company might be most difficult for to enter Japan, given limited resources?
Yeah, really good question. I mean, as I said earlier, then, you know, the government has realized that SMEs are not taking advantage of FTAs, and therefore that's the reason why I did include a chapter particularly on SMEs. To be honest, that chapter is not, it's quite fluid, it's quite vague. I mean, you can read it, it's on gov.uk website. However, the committee that has been set up around SMEs is going to look in depth at the kind of government funding that is required, with, you know, thinking of sort of organising networking, partnerships, etc., to really help SMEs. So if you've got any ideas about what you think should be in that chapter, and what concrete measures that you really want the governments of Japan and the UK to put into place, then by all means, you know, feed them in through Invest Northern Ireland or DIT. We'll be very happy to kind of feed them into the committees to discuss them.
Great, thanks. And we've had a request for your contact details, actually. And Barry, if you could stick on the last slide, you'll see my contact details and Steve's contact details. If you contact me, I'll happily put you in contact with Marie-Claire. Marie-Claire, just one more for you. It's a technical question. Can Can EU content be cumulated with UK content in the determination of rules of origin to access preferential tariff rates?
Yeah, so rules of origin. So obviously quite tricky area, and I certainly wouldn't want to give any individual advice on this webinar, but there is a really good document that I think I put the link in the chat earlier. A really good document actually on rules of origin on the gov.uk website. So if you could refer to that, I think that's probably the best thing to do.
I'm going to answer a few questions here. What is the uptake on renewable and new energy technology, more specifically domestic, commercial, and agri batteries? There's a massive push in Japan in renewable energies. New Prime Minister Yoshihide Suga announced almost as soon as he was in position that Japan had a net zero target by 2050. There's all kinds of things in place there, all different targets in 2025, 2030, 2040, 2050, and all that storage will, all that energy will need stored. You've got my contact details there. If you get in touch, I will pop you in the right direction. Let me take another one. Someone else asked about the, let's see, 1 second. Yes, we have Gary Flynn, represents several distilleries and breweries, very interested in developing an export route to Japan. Certified, how does liquor fit into the equation, and is there somebody you can speak to about this? It fits very well into the equation, and you can speak to me about that. Not directly about the liquor, but to put you in contact with various distributors who will be able to help you out. Very happy to help with that. What else do we have? Is the RDF internationalization funding has been rolled out in England, being rolled out in Northern Ireland? No, it's not. Devolved administrations are responsible for their own COVID relief packages, and we have a range of COVID relief packages. If you're an InvestNI client, you can contact them about it, or my details are there. Please contact me directly as well if you need to. And regulatory batteries, regulatory barriers for diagnostics, life sciences industry. Is there support available to assist on guidance and regulatory affairs? Marie-Claire, can you come in on that? Yeah. Maybe I'll have to be the last question.
Yeah, absolutely. So just very quickly, so our life sciences team, so it's one of our priority areas. There are lots of market access barriers in life sciences and diagnostics. So if you wouldn't mind contacting Mark, and then he can pass it on to my team, but we've definitely got lots of expertise in that area. I'm very happy to help you with that.
So I think we're going to bring it to an end there. The contact details of myself and Steve are on the screen there. We encourage you to reach out. If you're an InvestNI client, your client executive will be able to detail all the support we have available. But I very much encourage you to reach out for a chat about your business. Let's talk about what you're doing, what's going right, what you want to do, what you're confused about. And that's often the case. And a really good discussion can be very helpful in understanding the market and clear up many of the confusion around the nuances and the idiosyncrasies of doing business in Japan. Many thanks to our panelists, Marie-Claire, Nick and Steve, for joining us late on a Friday night. Thanks to Rachel and her comms team for their support. Thanks to Barry and Eventful for all the operational work behind the scenes. Most of all, thanks to everyone attending from Northern Ireland, all 65 of you. Hope you found it useful, and look forward to hearing from you.